ॐ विश्वं दर्पणदृश्यमाननगरी तुल्यन्निजान्तर्गतं पश्यन्नात्मनि मायया बहिरिवोद्भूतं यथा निद्रया यः साक्षात् कुरुते प्रबोधसमये स्वात्मानमेवाद्वयं तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये बीजस्यान्तरिवाङ्कुरो जगदिदं प्राङ्निर्विकल्पं पुनः मायाकल्पितदेशकालकलना वैचित्रचित्रीकृतं मायावीव विजृम्भयत्यपि महायोगीव यस्वेच्छया तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्तिः सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम् ॐ Verse 27. बुद्ध्यवच्छिन्नकूटस्थः लोकान्तरगमागमौ कर्तुं शक्तो घटाकाशः इवाभासेन किं वद. So with verse 26, Vidyaranya has completed Chidabhasa Viveka with respect to external objects, external world of objects, and internal world of thoughts. And having completed this primary topic, now he entered into a little technical topic between verse 27 to 68. A large, a big portion of the verses he is allotting for this technical discussion. Namely, Abhasavada Vichara or Pratibimbavada Vichara. And on inquiry into Abhasavada, which defines Jiva and Ishvara. It has been introduced, Abhasavada or Pratibimbavada. And here, of course, he concentrates on Abhasavada in context of a Jiva definition, not regarding Ishvara. According to Abhasavada, Jiva is defined as a consciousness reflected in the mind. So, or Pratibimbavada saying Jiva is defined as consciousness reflected in the mind. There is a difference. I told you I will have to give that difference later. But right now we will take it as it is. And Ishvara will be what? Consciousness reflected in Maya. So, reflected in Maya means basically consciousness is all pervading. Anything is there, any upadhi, any name and form, a large or a small, is non-separate. So Maya also, is a big, large upadhi, which we define as a Shakti, etc. That is non-separate from consciousness. Or else the mind, or Karana Sharira, same thing, is also non-separate from consciousness. And therefore reflection. So this Abhasavada, of course, is challenged by our another Advaitic Acharyas, who define Jiva as not reflected consciousness, but enclosed consciousness. Avachedavada. So, avachinna means enclosed. Avachinna Chaitanyam. Jiva is avachinna Chaitanyam, they say. Enclosed consciousness, not reflected consciousness. And the contention of Purvapaksha is Avachedavada is better than how, this Abhasavada. Because in Avachedavada, we require two factors to explain this Jiva. Abhasavada requires three factors to explain Jiva. So to define Jiva as Abhasa means you need a consciousness, you need a reflecting medium, and then there will be reflection also. So three factors. Whereas in Avachedavada does not require abhasa at all. So, consciousness, of course, that is required, all pervading consciousness, and the mind. That's it. All pervading consciousness obtains in the mind. That's called jiva. So, actually, that enclosed consciousness is not a third entity. And therefore, there are only two factors required to explain this formation of a jiva, etc. So, Avachedavada has what they call Laghavam, simplicity. Abhasavada has a Gaurava dosha, more factors, becomes complex. That's what they say. It's a burden, basically. And so, this is a Purupaksha. And Vidyaranya will refute Gaurava dosha in Abhasavada. He takes a, he takes a paksha of this Abhasavada. And in later books, it has been said that Vidyaranya and Sureshwaracharya both give a importance to Abhasavada. And then there are other acharyas, all Advaitic acharyas, great acharyas, but some were like Pratibimbavada, some like Abhasavada, some like Avachedavada. Anyway, so Abhasavada, Avachedavada does not completely explain Jiva. That's what Vidyaranya says. By taking, when he was confronted with this Purupakshi, saying that Abhasavada has a Gaurav dosha, then Vidyaranya says, well, Avachedavada does not completely explain Jiva. Abhasavada explains Jiva properly, and to explain that Jiva, third factor is required. He will explain. Now, today's class is on that only. So, out of necessity, if we add a component to explain, then that addition is not basically considered as a Gaurava dosha. Pramanika Gauravam dosha ena bhavati. Pramanika Gauravam, which is required. If third factor is not there, it is very difficult to explain this Jiva. And therefore, for that fact, to explain Jiva, if we think of a third factor, then it is not a dosha. And this is going to be explained in the coming verses now. So let's see first Purupaksha. What he says in this verse 27, Buddhi avachinna kutastha. So Jiva is none other than the consciousness which is obtained in the mind, which is enclosed in the mind, Buddhi, mind. Like what? Mahakasha obtained within the pot or within room, same way. Okay. So consciousness obtained within mind is Jiva. And that Jiva, he says, Kartum Shaktaha, Purupakshi says, Kartum Shaktaha. Well, he is capable of doing, capable of traveling from one loka to another loka. The enclosed consciousness in the mind, or the consciousness obtained in the mind, that is Kartum Shaktaha. He does varieties of the activity, he has a Kartrutvam, and he is able to go as per the karma from one loka to another loka. So he can be successful samsari. He will have a desire, he will be karta, he acquires punyam, and itself can travel from one to other loka. So enclosed consciousness is jiva. That's what Avachedavada says. Gama gamau, lokantara gama gamau, and gama gamau for arrival and departure. It's an object. Gama gamau is object of kartum shakta. Kartum shakta, gama gamau kartum shakta. Well, he is able to travel to other one loka, then he can return and go to again lokantara. He goes to another loka. So he is a traveler. Samsari. Traveler means samsari. Everything comes. When you say you travel, means everything comes. Travel from one to other loka itself proves that there is a karma phala. Karma phala is there, then he must have done a karma. Karma is there because therefore definitely we can assume kartrutva. Well, in kartrutvam is there, and he has a free will and he wants to exercise free will. He is having under a pressure. He is having a pressure of filling limitations, varieties of limitations. He wants to get rid of limitations because that's not his nature. Therefore, there is a desire. to get rid of limitations, to acquire various lokas, various objects. All this is samsara, entire. Samyak sarati. Very well, sliding down without obstruction from life to life, birth to birth, death to death. मृत्युस्य मृत्युमाप्नोति यह नाना इव पश्यति. मृत्युस्य मृत्युमाप्नोति goes from one from death to death. Yamadharmaraja says this. Means I am giving him a mrityu danda. Mrityusya mrityumapnoti. Mrityoho mrityu. Death to death. Very well, sliding down, no obstruction. Vedanta is obstruction to this sliding down of the jiva. Great obstruction. Vedanta is an obstruction. And more the Vedanta in life, now sliding down has decreased. Yeah. Vedanta alone is the obstruction in the entire creation for these jivas to travel from one loka to the other in this universe. So it's a samsari. And he gives example, Ghatakasha iva. Like the enclosed space within the pot. It's all-pervading space. But once the pot is made, well, there is an enclosed space. So pot space can travel from one place to other place. What is the proof for this, that pot space travels? Well, you fill up the milk in that, and pot space holds that milk. Pot holds milk is what? Somebody says, no, pot space does not hold milk. Pot holds the milk. Hey, what are you saying? When pot holds the milk, is it not that pot space holds the milk? When you say I live in a room, I live in an apartment, where do you live? You live in a space of the apartment. You cannot live in the wall of the apartment. So we have to understand. No one says the space, but it is space. Oh, I travel from JFK to New Delhi in a United Emirates flight. You travel? So you sat on the wings or you sat on the tail? Where? No, in the space of the aircraft. Any enclosed space only has a prayojanam. Depends upon what encloses it, the prayojanam differs. Yeah, room space definitely does not, it is not fit for filling up water. And and pot space is not fit for to stay and make your kitchen and dining room and all this. You cannot make in pot space. So depending upon a vessel, that enclosed space will have a different usages. Depending upon the enclosure, let us say. Okay, so here also, so that's how, see, gama gamau lokantara gama gamau kartum shaktah. So this the enclosed consciousness, that is jiva, which is capable of going to different lokas, from one loka to other loka, etc. Ghatakasha hiva, like the pot space also moves, because the pot space holds the milk. So milk travels or not? Milk travels. So pot space travels. That's simple. And therefore, same way this jiva, which is an enclosed consciousness in the body, in the mind, and it has a punya papam milk also. So along with punya papam it moves. Punya papa stays in that jiva. Like the milk stays in pot space, punya papa stays in jiva, which is enclosed consciousness in the mind. And so that travels, this also travels. So this is how things are. So that's karta bhokta, it is very clear. Now Avachedavadi raises this question to Abhasavadi. Abhasena kim prayojanam? Therefore, see, we explain everything to you. Just enclosed consciousness is a jiva, and it is able to travel like the pot space, which is enclosed in the pot, it is able to travel. Same way, this is also able to travel. And one who travels cannot be Brahman. Travels because he has a karma, prarabdha, punya papa, etc. So karta, bhokta, ichha, everything has come. Everything. And jnanam also. Anyway, so Abhasena kim prayojan? Why do you introduce unnecessary this reflection? That's how we are saying you is a Gaurava dosha. Without necessity, you introduce third factor and putting load on us. Two things: consciousness and the mind. That's it. But enclosed consciousness, that is not a third entity. Automatically, when consciousness obtains in the mind, there will be enclosed consciousness. It's not a third factor. Two factors explain that. Laghavam. Avachedavada has an advantage. So, abhasena kim prayojan? Why do you introduce unnecessary this reflection business without necessity? Iti vada. Now, may you answer my question. Vidyarnya answers. He picks up the microphone. Verse 28. Shunvasangah paricheda matra jivo bhaven nahi अन्यथा घटकुड्यादैः avacchinnasya jivata. So you say I have a, Vidyaranya says, you say I have a Gaurava dosha because I believe in Abhasavada. But in your suggestion, what you said, you have basically a serious problem more than my Gaurava dosha, and that is called Ati Prasanga dosha. Very beautiful. Shunu, Vidyaranya says, listen, O Avachedavadi, listen. Asangah jivaha nahi bhavet. Asangah kutastha. Well, jivaha nahi bhavet. This consciousness which is kutastha, asangah, unconnected to anything, which is limitless. Jivaha nahi bhavet. It cannot become jiva. He stands for eva. It cannot become jiva at all. Why? Paricheda matrat. By merely being enclosed within the mind, it becomes jiva. Consciousness, just by enclosure of the mind, consciousness is obtained within the mind and thereby enclosed is, and therefore it becomes jiva. That's not correct. Enclosed status itself cannot make consciousness as a jiva. So if consciousness becomes jiva merely by enclosure, then that consciousness, kutastha, that is all pervading consciousness, yeah. Then same consciousness is enclosed within pot also, yeah. Within room also, yeah. Then according to Avachedavada, well, then and consciousness obtained within the pot also is jiva. Consciousness obtained within the room also is jiva. So jiva should be available in the room. Even though it is empty room, but jiva should be available there. And jiva should be available in the pot also. And jiva should be available in the mind also. Because ultimately consciousness pervades everything. Consciousness pervades mind, jiva. Okay, consciousness pervades the pot, obtains in the pot. Because it's all pervading. It obtains in pot. That is also jiva. Consciousness pervades the room, obtains in the room. All there also. So enclosed consciousness within the room is also jiva. Everything is jiva. Right? So nice. And therefore I can tell Gata, now it is a jiva. Because it is, so definitely once the jiva obtains in a Gata, it will definitely, identify with the whole pot. Well, like consciousness obtained here, but ultimately pervades everything, gross body, everything. So I can tell Gata now, well, that don't change your position. Don't change. Be steady. And like I can tell anywhere the space is, like even in desk also I can tell. In desk also has right now drawers. Drawers have a lot of space. Therefore, consciousness obtained in that space also. So I can tell desk also, don't stretch your legs. Otherwise I will fall down. Yeah. Ati prasanga. This is called a wrong extension. It's a wrong extension. Consciousness obtained within mind is jiva. Then consciousness that is all pervading, obtained in all the spaces in different enclosures. Everyone is jiva. Everything is jiva. Very, very brilliant argument. So if you define jiva as just avachinna chaitanyam, then it will have a ati prasanga, wrong extension. Means that your definition goes to Gata also, goes to table also, goes to room also, everywhere. Your definition of a jiva. So this is they called lakshanasya lakshanam. In that I think they define like this. Nayayika very beautifully says definition of definition. In that it says it should be free from these three types of defects. Ativyapti, abhyapti, and asambhavana. When you define something, then more than the defined object, the definition should not go to other things. Like when you say one which has a four legs, E is an animal, etc. Um, well, so then there may be some animal which may be having a two legs or may not be having any legs. Possible. Where will you put this snakes, etc.? In which category? Where will you put? So this is all a problem. So it is called abhyapti. Your definition is not able to cover the defined objects totally. Defining animal in such a way that all animals should be covered. Abhyapti dosha this is. And sometimes it extends further to where it should not extend. It covers also what we don't want to define. This is called ativyapti. This is what is happening here. Enclosed consciousness within mind is jiva. But then enclosed consciousness within pot is what? Well, that is also jiva. So this is called ati prasanga, ativyapti. Ati prasanga. Anyway, so he says here, anyatha, well, paricheda matra jivaha nahi bhavet. Just by merely enclosing within the mind, the consciousness, akutastha, asanga cannot become jiva. Anyatha, otherwise, gata kudyadi avachinna chaitanyasya jivata bhavet. So, well, enclosed chaitanyam is jiva, if that is the definition. Then gata kudyadi, gata means a part, kudyam means a wall, means here room. Gata kudyadi, pot, wall, room, etc., everything also becomes jiva. So there is no inert matter at all. Microphone also is a jiva, because ultimately it is consciousness. Consciousness obtained in the mind, then in the senses, then in the gross body. Whole thing is conscious, sentient, and therefore pot becomes sentient, and then room becomes sentient, and my table becomes sentient. Everything is sentient, sentient, sentient. There is nothing inert in this world then. But you don't find so. You don't find. And therefore, sarvam jivamayam, we have to say. Right? Sarvam jivamayam, we have to add. Everything is jivamaya. Whole creation is jiva, jiva, jiva. Even this, what is that? Camera. Not camera is a Gujarat. Camera is also a jiva. Means I can address. I don't need anybody to talk to over a phone. I can talk to various things here itself, in my room itself. So wonderful. You are just alone with yourself, and yet you are able to talk to many things. Very wonderful. This is my extension, okay? So, Vachedavadi, Vada, now you answer. How will you get rid of this? You are saying you are Gaurav dosha. What about you now? Verse 29. न कूड्य सदृशी बुद्धिः स्वच्छत्वादिति चेत् तथा अस्तु नाम परिच्छेदे किं स्वाच्छेन भवेत् तव. For this argument, well, of Vidyaranya, Avachedavadi, ask a counter question. How can you equate a pot and mind? When I said consciousness obtained within mind is jiva, you have extended yourself. Did you take my permission? Consciousness obtained within pot also is jiva. How can you equate pot and mind? No doubt pot is jadam, mind is jadam, bhautikam, but pot is made up of gross matter. Mind is made up of subtle matter, finer matter. Pot encloses consciousness, mind encloses consciousness. Both enclosures are different, you should remember. But distinction in enclosing material. And therefore you have to make the difference. Wherever consciousness is enclosed by gross matter, it is not jiva. Wherever consciousness is enclosed by finer matter, subtle matter, it is jiva. And therefore there is no ati prasanga dosha. Okay? Take mic. So Purvapakshi says this. This is just a drama. Okay? Buddhihi kudya sadrushi na bhavati. Buddhihi, the mind. Kudya sadrushi. Does not, here kudya means room, wall. Even though mind is a matter, Well, it is not like a wall or a room or a pot. Why? Because one is finer bhautikam. See, sorry, finer bhautikam I said. Anyway, grosser bhautikam, finer bhautikam, no problem. Swachhatvat. Swachhatvat, because of the finer material. Iti chet. If this is the answer, Vidyaranya says, you said this, right? Yeah. One is finer material, so jiva. Gross material, no jiva. Pot, wall, consciousness pervades, obtains there. Yes, very good. All pervading consciousness. All pervading space obtains anywhere. Same way, all pervading consciousness obtains everywhere. But still, they are not jiva. This is jiva. Why? Well, because it is finer material. If that is your answer, Vidyaranya says, Tatha, then, Astu Nama. Let it be so. Let the mind be finer matter, and the mind enclosed consciousness still cannot become jiva. Why? What happened to you? Because just as a part enclosed consciousness cannot be jiva, well, just being the mind is a finer material, still the enclosed consciousness means obtained in the mind is not jiva. Swachena tat kim bhavet? By being a finer material, what advantage are you going to get over Vachedavadi? Parichede, with respect to the enclosed status of consciousness, enclosure by gross or enclosure by finer material, that enclosed status is same for both. You said enclosed consciousness is jiva, right? In your definition of jiva, can you include material? No. Enclosed consciousness is jiva. Consciousness obtained in the mind is jiva. Then consciousness is all pervading, obtaining anywhere. Why just mind? No, mind is finer material. But your definition of a jiva is an enclosed consciousness. It has nothing to do with the material of enclosure. Whatever the material, finer or gross, what does it make? We are bringing him from his own mouth, he will say about reflection. Wait. So, ultimately, enclosed one is a jiva or not? Yes. That's it. What encloses has no concern. What encloses has no concern. So, swachena, by being just a finer material, swacham means a fineness. So, by being a finer material, tat kim bhavet? What advantage are you going to get? Parichede, well, with respect to the enclosed status of consciousness, well, either means enclosure by gross or a finer material, enclosed status is same for the both. Buddhyavachinna chaitanyam or Gatavachinna chaitanyam or Kudyavachinna chaitanyam, well, that is the definition of a jiva. If you say no, enclosed consciousness within mind only is jiva, I would say enclosed consciousness within pot also is jiva. You cannot negate it. If one is jiva, other is jiva. If one is not jiva, other is also not jiva. Vidyaranya feels he has not conveyed idea clearly. So he gives now in verse 30 some example and explains it. Verse 30. Prasthena darujanyena kamsajanyena va nahi vikretustanduladinam parimanam vishishyate. So when person wants to sell material, sometimes they use a weight, right? So and so amount of in terms of weight, kilogram, etc. So they weight and give the shopkeeper. And sometimes they use a measure. Especially in India, when I do remember when we were not having this, glass bottles. Earlier glass bottles were there, and now we have a polythene pack, a plastic pack in which milk comes. But in those days, I still remember we used to go to a milk shop. Milk shop, the shop which was selling milk and yogurt and etc. So we used to go there, and he used to having in a big container that loose milk, and he used to keep different measuring vessels. He used to keep it on the wall of that vessel itself. 200 ml, and 250 ml, and then 500 ml, and then 1 liter. And I still remember then he jumped 5 liter vessel, measuring vessel. And he used to give. If you ask for 750 ml, well, then 500 plus 250. 700, 500 plus 200. Like that. I still remember for many years, and I'm talking about childhood. So there is a measuring vessel, or there are certain things by which you give by weight. So vessel is a measure, 1 liter vessel, etc. Now we are asking, in Gujarati they call mapiu. So what is the definition of a measure? I don't know. So what is the definition of a measure now? Vidyaranya says measure or measuring vessel is nothing but another name of a akasha. Not all pervading akasha. Enclosed within that measuring vessel. That definite volume, which is nothing but the enclosed space, is a measuring vessel. If that vessel is not there, well, you don't call it as a measure or measuring vessel. You call it measure only when enclosure is there. 1 liter enclosure, 500 ml enclosure, etc. If you call it measure for measuring liquid, well, you use space alone. So, value of a measure is not in material, but empty space enclosed. This we should understand very well. So Vidyanya asks, and one definition of measure is this enclosed space. Even though, well, you say along with that enclosure you say, but really speaking, what you use is this enclosed space only. That is the measure. Otherwise, it will not be of use. And therefore, well, one definition of measure is this enclosed space. Does it matter which kind of a material is there to enclose space? Vidyaranya says material doesn't matter. Volume is enclosed by a silver that 1 liter vessel, or a plastic 1 liter vessel, or stainless steel. They used to give by stainless steel, or even maybe wooden, let us say. 1 liter measure will be 1 liter measure. If it is a wooden measuring vessel, or a stainless steel measuring vessel, or a silver or a gold measuring vessel. 1 liter measure is a 1 liter measure. So, definition of measure only specify enclosed status of space. Enclosed status of a space. It does not specify enclosing material. Similarly, in your definition of jiva, while it is enclosed status of a consciousness which specifies jiva, enclosing material does not enter the definition at all. So, part enclosed consciousness or mind enclosed consciousness both have a definition of a jiva. That's it. And so, Tanduladinam Vikretuhu, see the verse. So, Tanduladinam Vikretuhu, Vikreta, trader, seller, who sells what? Tanduladinam, who sells Tandula. Tandula, we can rice. So, Odanam is a cooked rice. Before cooking, you take out from the container, that is called Tandula. Once you cooked, it becomes Odanam. Cooked rice is Odanam. Without cooking, it is Tandula. Anyway, so there is a trader who sells this Tandula, and so Tandula adina Vikretuhu, and we have to assume here that he uses a measure, not weight, right? Because then only it makes a difference. So Tandula adina Vikretuhu Parimanam na Vishishyate. Here, so measure does not undergo any change. Parimanam means that measure. Na Vishishyate, measure does not undergo any change. What? Prasthena, by using a measure, of olden days, which encloses some volume of space, it may be Darujanyena, that measure made up of a wood, or Kamsena, or made up of a bronze, any metal. So trader won't say, yesterday I sold 1 liter of rice. You imagine that instead of a milk, some rice. Why rice? Bring milk. No. rice, because I have some advantage. I don't want to lose that advantage. Therefore, keep rice. In that 1 liter, well, he's giving a rice with that. So trader won't say that yesterday I sold 1 liter of rice, well, with a plastic measure. Today I sold 1 liter of rice with that stainless steel measure, and therefore today I have a loss. You, that won't be there. And therefore, so same way, if enclosed consciousness is a jiva, then mind enclosed consciousness or pot enclosed consciousness will have to be the same. And so, both. Now you tell me what you want to keep. Pot enclosed consciousness is jiva and mind enclosed consciousness is jiva. Now you say mind enclosed consciousness jiva is chetana, and pot enclosed consciousness jiva is not chetana. Then it won't work. Either tell now jiva as a chetana, then how will you explain pot enclosed consciousness as a jiva? How will you explain? It is because if no, there is chetana there, the jiva is there, which has even identified with the pot body also. Then I can address the pot. I can talk to pot, but nothing happens. I daily talk to him, nothing happens. Tell me now, jiva is chetana or achetana? Serious issue. You are saying Gaurav dosha, Gaurav dosha. In your Avachedavada, there are big holes. So you can't differentiate. Avachedavada has a lot of loopholes. See now what he says. Verse 31. Parimana visheshepi pratibimbo vishishyate kamse yadi tada buddhau apyabhaso bhavet balat. So Purapakshi is not going to give it up. He places another question. Okay, in wooden measure rice is same, or in that bronze vessel also, bronze measure also rice is same. Still in wooden measure we don't find the reflection of the rice in the vessel. Whereas in the metal bronze vessel, when you fill up with the rice, there is a reflection of rice in that bronze, that enclosure. That much difference is there between them. So, parimana avisheshepi, in terms of the measure, parimana, avishesha, it is common. Yeah, that is right. This also give 1 liter or whatever, 500 grams or whatever, that vessel. So, that also gives 1 liter, this also gives 1 liter. But, basically, parimana avisheshepi, yadi parimana avisheshepi, pratibimbaha vishishyate, but there is a reflection. Where? Kamse. In the bronze vessel there is a reflection. Otherwise there is no difference at all. There is no difference. Other than then, what is the difference? No difference. A special material is there. Then special material is there, but you are saying just enclosed. That will be the same. Enclosed consciousness will be the same. So enclosed rice is same. Enclosed space that will be filled up with the rice is the same. So you say no, there will be reflection in that vessel which is made up of bronze, and there is no reflection which is made up of kashtam, darujanyam, which is made up of wood. That much difference is there. Very good. Up to this is Purapakshi. So yadi parimana avisheshepi pratibimbo kamse pratibimbo vishishyate tada. Then Vidyarani says, give me mic. Your turn is over. Tada. Then, within the pot consciousness, well, within pot also there is a consciousness enclosed. Within mind also there is a consciousness enclosed. What is the difference? You tell me now. Buddhau, enclosed consciousness in mind. Well, even though enclosed consciousness only, but in Buddhau, in mind there is a reflection. That's a difference. That's a reflection. And therefore Jiva basically is defined as a reflection, because otherwise They are same. Enclosed consciousness within the pot, enclosed consciousness within the mind. Both are same. Just enclosed consciousness. Then the difference will be, if you have to make a difference, enclosed consciousness within the pot is achetanam. Enclosed consciousness within mind is chetanam. How will you find the difference? If both are jiva, well, both should be either inert or both should be chetana. But here you said it is chetana, and there you said it is not. Then the difference is in terms of reflection. That's it. What else? So why can't you accept this now? So jiva. So Buddha, if you are very fanatic about that consciousness obtained within mind only is a jiva, well then you have to accept that in buddhi there is a reflection. There is no difference at all otherwise. So buddho api abhasah bhavet. Well, reflection will be there in the mind. Balat, by force of the same argument. Your argument regarding the vessel, which made up of a wood and made up of a bronze, you said there is no difference in terms of enclosed space. Both are 1 liter. But then the difference is, well, definitely in terms of the reflection of that rice in the bronze vessel and not in the wood vessel. That much is the difference. So by balat, by force of the same argument, so your argument is, well, metal has an advantage being finer, it is capable of reflection. Then I give the same argument. Mind is made up of a finer, subtle element. Mind has got a abhasa chaitanya. There we can say metal has advantage being finer, means in terms of a polish, etc. That's how it reflects. We have to take that way. So mind has got a abhasa chaitanya. Mind is made up of finer, subtle elements. So it has got a abhasa chaitanya. Pot has no abhasa chaitanyam, therefore it is not jiva. So jiva is abhasa chaitanya. Again. So this is the bala. Balat means by force of the argument, same argument. Which argument? Swacha argument. By force of their fineness argument. The fineness argument has brought this reflection. If it is a finer, then there is a reflection. That's a difference. We can give example of even granite, etc. also. Polished granite and unpolished granite, etc. They are also the same kind of a thing, we can say. So it is, once even is polished, that's called finer. Unpolished, not finer. Gross, we can say. So definition of fineness is what? Capable of forming reflection, which mind has. So with that, Vidyaranya has refuted Gaurava dosha. Vidyaranya has refuted Gaurava dosha. In their own system, Abhasavada, there was a Gaurava dosha that has been refuted, and also charged this Avachedavadi with a Ati Prasanga dosha, and that is more serious. And he says Gaurava dosha is not a dosha because it is pramanikam. If we don't assume this reflection, we will not be able to explain jiva. See, even in Avachedavada also, if you have not assumed that abhasa, then you would not be able to explain jiva. Jiva is chetana or achetana itself becomes a question. And therefore, you said abhasa is a one more factor, consciousness and mind, both only are required. You add abhasa also. That is a gaurava. Don't imagine many factors. In Avachedavada, we have just consciousness and mind, and enclosed consciousness is not a third factor. But you see, you have to come to abhasa, otherwise you cannot explain. Consciousness is enclosed in everything, all pervading consciousness, like space. Like space, it has an example, nearest example, and therefore it is pramanikam. The third factor, what we have assumed, is pramanikam, not gaurava dosha. And necessity. Without reflection, we cannot differentiate gata vachina chaitanyam and antakarana vachina chaitanyam. Without reflection, you cannot explain. The difference between Antakarana-vachina Chaitanyam, enclosed consciousness within the mind, and Gata-vachina Chaitanyam, pot enclosed consciousness, the difference between that is due to abhasa in the mind because of fineness of material. What a wonderful thing, right? Verse 32. ईषद्भासनम् आभासः प्रतिबिम्बस्तथा विदः बिम्बलक्षणहीनः सन् बिम्बवद्भासते सही. Now Vidyaranya goes to a next topic. I mean, this is only in Abhasavada, etc., but he goes to a now next topic. He says, reflected consciousness can be called Abhasa or Pratibimba. As I told you here, they don't make a difference. For all practical purposes, they can be same. Abhasa and Pratibimba. So Abhasavada and Pratibimba we have combined right now. Even though in advanced textbooks, while they make a finer difference, Prakashatma Muni, which is a Vivaranacharya, who has written a Vivarana on a Brahma Sutra, Prakashatma Muni, and Padmapadacharya, well, I think they are Guru Shishya. So they accept Pratibimbavada. And Sureshwaracharya ji and Vidyaranya Swami accepts Abhasavada. Vachaspati Mishra, I have told you, who has written this Bhamati. Last time I told you, I think. And Bhamati, that is a commentary on Brahmasutra Bhashyam. So that Vachaspati Mishra well accepts Avachedavada. They are all great acharyas. And therefore, with answers what we are having, we should be happy. Because if you penetrate little bit, then again there is some problem. And therefore, for people like children, like us, this is good. Balakaha. For them, this is good. Abhasa is a Ishad Bhasanam. It's very beautiful. Abhasa is what? Ishad Bhasanam. Partial resemblance. Of what? Original. So, A stands for partial. And Bhasa stands for shining. So, Ishad Bhasanam means a partial resemblance of the original is called Abhasa. Pratibimbaha tatha vidaha. Pratibimba also is saying. Partial resemblance to original. So, entity which is a reflection, Abhasa, or Pratibimba, image. So, photo, let us say, see, I will explain you. Photo is called Abhasa of the original. Okay? And the statue of a person, like in Madame Tussauds Museum, that is called image, right? That's called Pratibimba. So, but this definition, partial resemblance to original, applies to both, either Abhasa or either Pratibimba. Why? Because even though they make from wax models, all wax, very, very similar, right? So we cannot say partial resemblance of this Amitabh Bachchan, really. They make it like he is going to speak. Exactly. I have not seen in London, but people who have gone there and they must have seen it. So it's exactly they make everything. Still we call it partial, not total. Why? There is no life. That's it. There is no life. And therefore, therefore partial resemblance. Very big difference. Swamiji, this is just small difference. What small? It's a big difference. The life and no life makes a big difference. And therefore, even that image of Amitabh Bachchan, which we call Pratibimba, is basically a partial resemblance of the original. Even shadow also we call partial resemblance. Anyway, I'm going to a little bit discuss between Abhasa and Pratibimba. We'll see that. There is always a difference between your shadow and your reflection in the mirror. Kindly see that. Okay? There is a big difference. Shadow, your shadow and your reflection in this in the medium, I mean mirror, etc. Okay, so that's what it says here. Bimba Lakshana Hina San, without having all characteristics of original. Lakshana is characteristic here. Without having all characteristics of original, Bimbavad Bhasate. It has got resemblance to original because of certain features of original. So if all the features match with the original, well, then it is original only. If no features matches with the original, then that is not called reflection or image, or not even a shadow either. Partial resemblance only. And therefore to the original. And so resemblance, partial resemblance to the original is called abhasa, jiva. Partial resemblance to original. And you know very well. It appears conscious, right? And this is also consciousness. This is also consciousness, this is also consciousness. But this is limited, obtains within the mind. This is limitless. Asangaha, it said. Asangaha kutastha. And therefore, a very big difference. There are other differences. So that is what it is. And abhasa also comes and goes and etc. It is not sat, etc. It undergoes modification also. We will see that. So this is how the topic begins. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.